Welcome back to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Amy Suto. She's a writer, founder, and scripted podcast producer. She's also the co-founder and CEO of Kingdom of Ink, a ghostwriting services company that helps creatives build freelance writing careers. She also runs the company Kingdom of Pavement, which produces podcasts, including The Last Station, a scripted podcast about the last radio station to survive the apocalypse. When she's not running companies, she's ghostwriting memoirs for people all over the world or working on her own novel. Amy also teaches yoga and collects hobbies like bouldering and pole dancing because she's allergic to free time. So let's get started. Hi, Amy. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
We have this pandemic going on right now, and I know it's so funny because before the show, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second, but you said you were traveling. And I was just on the call with a client she's going to the Dominican, and everybody feels weird about that. But I think we all need to get to some kind of normalcy. Take the precautions we can, but be normal. And traveling is, you know what, if you can travel, just do it safely is what I tell people now. And every time I leave the country, have a COVID test before I come back, and then have a COVID test at the border, I probably would travel more. Canada has some stricter rules right now. So while you're traveling, give us a little bit of background about you, your organization, and since you're traveling, what you're doing with the travel right now.
My name is Amy Suto, and I am the CEO and founder of Kingdom of Ink. And Kingdom of Ink is a ghostwriting services company, and we help people get connected with the top 1% of freelance ghostwriters in the entire world. And I started off my career as a TV writer working in entertainment. And when I found out when I was working my way up the ladder and writing TV, was that some of my favorite things I was writing was actually these memoirs that I was ghostwriting for these insanely cool people all over the world. So I was traveling and I was writing memoirs for Himalayan monks and CEOs and VCs and just like really fascinating people that I would go and travel to and meet. So I was really just loving this work I was doing as a ghostwriter. I began Kingdom of Ink with my co-founder, Kyle Cords, and we really wanted to be able to bring this idea of connecting people all over the world to the writers who were meant to help them tell their story. And so right now what I'm doing, continuing the things that I really loved to do before the pandemic, which is travel, meet people, and tell people stories. I've been traveling actually since last year, August 2020. We started to do a road trip around the entire United States, starting from Los Angeles all the way down to Nashville, Tennessee, to Banner Elk, North Carolina, Galena, Illinois, up to the Pacific Northwest, and then back. And then that was enough. We just got back from that road trip a few months ago. We're like, let's go to Europe. And then decided to go to Europe. The reason why that we really love travel is because our entire business is built around this idea of remote work being part of the healthiest things for entrepreneurs and freelancers and writers. Because when you're traveling, you're meeting a lot of really fascinating people. You're able to work with clients all over the world. You're able to broaden your horizons and kind of experience the world in a way that makes you a better entrepreneur and a better creative.
So how did you get started how did you decide to start Kingdom of Ink? Where was this idea come from?
In the beginning of the pandemic, I actually was running this company called Kingdom of Pavement, which was a live events company, which was the worst company we could be running in the beginning of the pandemic. We were in the middle of doing this huge secret show series with all of these musicians. We were launching a bunch of events. We had so much on the books. And then the pandemic happened. We're like, oh, this is not happening.
Yeah.
So we took all those fantastic musicians. We actually started a scripted podcast company out of that for Kingdom of Pavement. And we created a show called The Last Station, which is about the last radio station at the end of the earth. This lone radio host who's broadcasting her tunes. And then it kind of turns into sci-fi drama akin to War of the Worlds. And then we also released a murder mystery podcast called Just to Be Nominated about a murder that happens at the Oscars. And these two podcasts I was trying to solve what happens. And so Kingdom of Pavement was kind of our podcast child at the beginning of the pandemic. But while we were kind of learning how to run a company, because that was me and my partner, Kyle Cords, our first foray into really hiring people, collaborating, learning all the nuts and bolts of how to run a business. We also were seeing how in the pandemic work was changing and my freelance work was just exploding. And I had my biggest year yet. I was trying to handle all these clients, so many other writers with entertainment backgrounds that we know are capable of doing this work for other people too. And so we really wanted to connect the writers in our universe with all of the different companies and individuals that we know wanted to work with them. And so that's kind of how we started Kingdom of Ink, recognizing that this was a time in the pandemic where everybody still wanted to do projects and work and needed good writers and good talent and just wasn't able to find them. And I started my career on Upwork and I was having trouble getting connected to the clients that were perfect for me. And I found a lot of awesome clients on Upwork. But the thing is that a lot of like the top tier talent don't have time to constantly submit on Upwork. And a way that I get a lot of leads is through my website. And so we were trying to build a platform that made it easier for the best writers to be connected with really awesome companies. One of the things that we also wanted to do with Kingdom of Ink was introduce this idea of mutual aid. When as the pandemic was starting, there was all of these organizations and communities bringing together this idea of helping each other, sharing resources amongst people in their universe. Our idea of mutual aid in Kingdom of Ink is that a percentage of every single project gets put back into the collective for the writers as cash payments just to help them weather the highs and lows of a freelance career. By all of our clients who work with us in Kingdom of Ink, not only do they get to work with amazing writers, they also are supporting a model that helps freelancers have that safety net. And in the pandemic, that was huge because we really saw how people were losing their jobs and creatives were trying to figure out like how to start freelance careers. It was very scary to just jump off in the middle of nowhere. So it was really cool to be able to create a model that was not only helping like a lot of amazing companies. We work with like companies like Planned Parenthood and nonprofits, a lot of cool individuals, but it's awesome to like have that as a selling point of like, not only are you working with amazing writers, but like you're also helping this model that we think is a model that everybody should take and run with, is this kind of idea of like profit sharing within different organizations.
That's an amazing idea, actually, especially for freelancers, because they have their ups and downs in between projects or projects that slow down. And the pandemic, a lot of people did lose their job or a lot of projects did halt. I mean, it's one of those risks that not every, you don't plan for a global pandemic when you're obviously when you're Kingdom of Pavement, you weren't saying, oh, in case of a pandemic, what would we do? And it wasn't part of your risk planning. It wasn't part of your, ideas. Even though had global pandemic, it's just, you never think you're going to live through one and how it affects everything that happens. And it's still affecting us all. I'm curious because, we talk about project management here. You have a lot going on. So that's, how do you keep track of it all? How are you transitioning and keeping track of the different podcasts and then coming up with Kingdom of Ink and doing how?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm such a project management geek. I love all the different tools out there in the world to use. I think that we work with a pretty big team of like remote freelancers, like designers. We have an assistant that helps us kind of keep track of everything. But the thing that we've really found is so important for remote work is having everybody be on the same page. We love using tools like Trello, collaborative to-do lists. Microsoft To-Do is our favorite to-do app, making sure that everything is in front of everybody. All of the deadlines are really super clear. Everybody has every piece of information that they need. When it comes to like managing remote freelancers, we've learned a ton in this last year because we were so used to like just being in person with the people we were collaborating with before. Having to transition into remote work means being very clear with deadlines, being very clear with here are the deliverables in like this Dropbox folder. And so we've kind of created a really intricate system of like Dropbox folders and like to-do lists and project planning tools through Trello. And the way that I try to keep organized is set different weeks for different kind of projects. My partner and I both kind of work on like different projects at different times. So this week is a week that I'm working on a bunch of big memoir projects. And this is a week that a cut just came in for one of our podcasts. And so he's off kind of giving notes, working with the director on that. And so we try to delegate and really kind of head up different things that are going on. And we also bring in a lot of help from the other creatives in our world. So if we have a cut of an episode that isn't quite working and the score is kind of coming in not exactly what we like, or we're trying to kind of figure out how to dial it or tweak it into a way that it'll be perfect, we'll bring in an editorial consultant that we know from our Hollywood world and have her come in and kind of work with the director on the episode while we're off triaging something else. So we have a lot of different support that we bring in, but one thing that we're very allergic to is meetings. We do not do meetings. We don't do them because everybody that we work with is on different time zones. So we're also working on a new tech app with a developer and a wireframe designer and a bunch of other really amazing people. And so we have like
let's just add something else to our plate.
And so we also, for that project, but everyone's on a different time zone because like our designers in Singapore, our developers in Los Angeles, like we're traveling around Europe. And so we can't really do meetings. What we do is we have like a Slack for the whole project and everybody like posts like daily updates in there. And then to try to keep all of our communication for that project just on that, and then occasionally do phone calls. But we really are trying to not do very many, if any, meetings unless it's mandatory for a project, because we found that meetings in the past have just been bloated and they don't actually contribute to things. And when you just send somebody like, if you just post something on Slack, I need this here, and like somebody let me know what we should do for this, then we can have a very more succinct like dialogue and solve a problem like in real time rather than having to go and do meetings. So we're a fan of asynchronous work for sure.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session, pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. Yeah, meeting management is a skill that you have to learn. It can be a hard skill because of all the different personalities of like, if you want to keep to a schedule, everybody has their own ideas. And even if you have an agenda, sometimes it's hard to keep to that agenda. And in today's world, I know so many people they've moved remotely. So now people are booking meetings back to back. So they don't have a break in between meetings to do anything. So meetings can be very daunting and can be very overwhelming. And sometimes, like you said, can have a lot of bloat in them that really don't add anything except people thinking, why am I still here?
Yeah.
Why am I still on this call? So you do have a lot going on. It's just, I keep thinking of all the different projects you've told me about. So Kingdom of Ink, which you started during the pandemic, it's one of those things, this is why I'm wanting to do this season, is because so many people have lost their jobs, had to pivot, or always had this idea of doing something, but didn't think the pandemic was the right time to do it. What gave you the courage that even though we're in a global pandemic, you knew, obviously, because you're one company, was like, oh, well, this is done. What gave you the courage to pivot and keep going and try something new?
Yeah, well, really, it's just seeing all of the success stories of my clients because my focus as a freelance writer is in memoir ghostwriting. It's incredible to just see people's businesses and careers and lives just completely change when they publish a book. It's really night and day. Like I've had clients go from complete toiling in obscurity and then they publish a book and then suddenly they have TED Talks and speaking tours. Their business takes off and then they've got this going on and then, their book gets optioned and there's just so much momentum happens for them. And that's so incredibly rewarding to see. So I just saw firsthand how even small writing projects, like helping somebody by ghostwriting blog post for them and getting them the traction that they need to be a thought leader in their field, like even small things like that. Great writing is good for business no matter what. And it's also good for even some of the clients I've had who are writing memoirs to pass on as heirlooms for their kids. Great writing is just so important. And I'm so passionate about it as a lifelong storyteller. I've loved writing for scripted podcasts. I've loved writing for TV, and I've loved writing my own projects. I really do love sharing the gift of writing with other people. And what we just have an abundance of in our world, just from the people that we know, are all of these amazing playwrights and journalists who also have that passion, but they're just so busy on like their next play or whatever they're doing in Broadway. And they're like, oh, I would love to be a writer for other people, but it's just so daunting to even start a freelance career, or it's so daunting to even go out and try to find clients or sell myself. And so a lot of the creatives in our world who are just so talented and have the extra time and like want to help other people, just were not able to bridge that gap or that leap or just couldn't figure out how. I just really wanted to help them with that because I think that the more great storytelling is, the rest of the world just kind of comes because if you're able to tell a great story. I work a lot with tech clients who are trying to get their business off the ground and trying to sell their tech app. And the big thing in tech, if you're going after investment, is you need to tell a great story. I've been able to see how a tech company that's struggling and trying to get their, pitch materials together are able to just skyrocket and get their Series A and just kind of go through the roof once they have a great explainer video, a great pitch deck, and a great story. So storytelling is really at the heart of everything, especially in business, especially in careers. It's like whatever you're doing, is storytelling is the most important part. And so I just have such a huge passion for it and want to help other people have access to the storytellers that can really change their lives.
How do you match somebody with a storyteller?
So on our website, we have an application for people to work with us. Basically, we have them fill out details about their project, what type of project it is, what they're looking for. From there, we have a roster of fantastic writers that we know in and out. We get thousands of applications from the top writing universities and from all different industries, and we only let in about 0.97% of writers who apply to be part of Kingdom of Ink. So we've truly found the best of the best, and we also have them all categorized in our internal system of who does what they're really good at, and we have all their writing samples on file too. So once you submit an application to work with us, we match you with the perfect writer for your project. at your budget, depending on what you're looking for. And all of our writers start at $65 an hour. So we kind of match you with the perfect person based on your project and what you're looking for. And from there, you can meet with that writer. If that writer isn't the right fit for you, we can recommend someone else. But everyone that all of our clients so far, the first writer that they've matched with, they've loved. And they've just like been over the moon. And I think that just speaks to the fact that like our writers are just wonderful humans with like very interesting lives. Like one of our writers, Jack, used to be a child actor. And he like got into TV writing and like such a wonderful story. And he's one of the funniest people I know. And he's just such a good writer. And so the writers that we've picked are just really phenomenal, really amazing rising stars. And we're lucky to have them in our ecosystem.
So I've looked at your website and I'm actually looking at it right now while I've got you up. So you have subscriptions, what are the different services and how do you just said, they start at $65 an hour. So what is the average that somebody can expect to spend, not money wise, but the average amount of time that somebody can expect to get from a writer?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the project. Like we have projects as small as people who just need their LinkedIn bio rewritten, and those start at $300 an hour. But mostly our focus is on memoirs and books. And that kind of depends on, are you coming in with a full draft and you're just looking for someone to rewrite and edit? Are you looking for somebody to go from scratch with you? So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. But mostly the projects that we've been doing have either been memoirs, or we've done a lot of like explainer videos lately, an animation series. It just kind of depends on what somebody is looking for. And we're also happy to talk with people about fixed rate stuff. And if nonprofits, we're always welcome to do a nonprofit rate for. But yeah, it kind of just depends on the business and the needs. And what we're really seeing is that people are looking for alternatives to hiring a full-time copywriter for an entire year, because a lot of small businesses can't afford the salary of a writer for the full year, but they do need web copy, newsletter sequences, and like all of this stuff. And so what they can do is they can go and buy a subscription from us starting at $6,000 a month and just do all of their copy and for the entire year, and just do like a few months, have whatever they need depending on the scale of what they're looking for. And then they get the top tier writers working on all of their marketing materials, and they don't have to hire a full-time copywriter. And so it's really just about trying to find the thing about freelancing is that it's flexible and it's also more efficient because you're getting the writer's best hours of their week rather than hiring somebody as an employee and you are their everything and you have to pay all these additional fees. And on the writer side, it's so phenomenal because like as a freelance writer, I'm able to travel and see the world and like pick the clients I want to work with. Freelancing is the future. In a few years, we're going to see freelancers actually outnumber the number of employees. And a lot of the studies are just showing how work is just changing. And so this is the future of how people are going to be working.
I think, this last year and a half changed how people are going to work. Definitely. I know there's a lot of people that aren't going to go back to their office full time, and they want to do that. Even if they're going to be an employee, they want to be able to travel and work remotely, and because it's now proven that you can. It's actually, like you said, if you don't need a full-time writer, then you have the option to not have a full-time writer. And I think that's what a lot of freelancers, when they find that niche of like, there's this need. For me, even, not everybody needs a project manager full-time. Some people think, I want to hire a project manager, but then when you get in there, it's like, depending on the size of projects, the number of projects, it's not a full-time job for a lot of small companies. So that's why it's like working, I can 5-10 hours a week with one, 5 hours a week with another, but they don't want to pay. They don't need to pay for a full-time project manager. They don't need to pay for a full-time copywriter. And then also there's a variety. Like you said, the freelancers can go and choose what they want to write about. And if you're a full-time copywriter at an organization, you may be writing things that you don't necessarily interest you and you're not going to give your best. This way, at least, you've got people, you're going to get somebody that has an interest, somebody that can give their best to each topic that you need. And it doesn't have to be the same freelancer.
Absolutely. It's just such a better model for the way that companies work. And it's just, it's exciting to kind of be at the forefront of it. And I've been very lucky to be able to build my own career in it. And so it's very cool.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group and watch out for some exciting news coming soon. Until next time.